episode is actually going to be our season finale for season 1. I think that's going to give Jennifer and I a break from recording, and then we'll get back to it for season 2. Jennifer, we got a lot of fun topics coming up, but I want to thank our 17 subscribers for coming back. We do have a very exciting episode today. One of the things that I've been really wanting to pursue is getting other people's sides of things, and so we have that today, and it's going to be great. If you two would introduce yourselves, and then we'll get started.
My name is Jennifer Hersig, and I'm a behavior consultant at SBS in Hamilton County and Marion County.
And I am Marcy Thompson. I'm a behavior clinician. I work with Epic Consulting, and I work a little bit of everywhere across Indiana.
Epic Consulting, where is that based out of, if I could ask?
That is my business, and I am based out of Bloomington.
Very cool. So you have your own, you're your own provider.
I am.
Very cool. Epic Consulting. I'm gonna take some notes in Bloomington. That makes sense because I've been trying to break into Bloomington and I've been failing for a long time.
Got it locked up.
Now, between you and Sue Bauer, I figured it out. Okay. That is what's happening. Yeah, that's what's happening. Sue, if you watch this, yeah, you guys are being very successful in Bloomington because I've barely broken into there. So that makes sense. Epic Consulting. Okay. When did you open that, if I can ask?
Last year, around March.
Oh, so you're a year old now.
I am.
Very exciting.
Yes.
Very March of 22. Okay. That's exciting. I remember the 1 year mark. For me, when I hit it, I was like looking around and I was like, I thought it'd blow up by now, but we're here. So
We're still here.
Yeah.
Well, how long has it been for you?
We're only in our 4th year.
Nice.
Yeah. What, January of 20? Yeah.
Right as COVID hit. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
So that's another reason why year 1 was a little different. Because I thought because of that and various other factors, right? That like we're not going to make it. But then, I sat there on the 1 year mark and I don't remember what I did. Maybe I went to dinner, but I had that like, I guess we're here,
That would be an interesting time to start, right during the pandemic.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Obviously, didn't know it was coming, but good night. It was looking back, of course, it's like, oh, it was fine. It was great. But during it, I was sweating bullets every day.
Mm-hmm.
So you're a year old, Epic Consulting out of Bloomington. Is it just you or are there other BCs with you? What's that look like these days?
Just me.
Just you, just getting it done. Yeah. First year was only me too. So,
Yes.
Cool. All right. A lot of similar starting out. I'm taking notes. So how long have you been in the waiver, Marcy?
I believe I started working as a behavior clinician around November of 2009. And I've been working in that capacity ever since then. And prior to that, I was a case manager.
Waiver case manager?
Yes.
With whom, if I can ask?
Well, when I started, it was a company called Independent Case Management. It was owned by Eric Forthman. And I did that for, I think, around 3 years. But prior to that, I was a DSP. So
very cool.
Yeah, I've worked.
Pretty common trajectory for a lot of waiver people, right? Like I kind of started off in like the residential case management to behavior consulting.
Yeah. I think it gives you a good perspective, really.
Mm-hmm. Very rounded.
Yeah, from all the sides of waiver. That's one of my favorite things to do is to hire case managers. When they complete their graduate degree, like I actively go and recruit because they know that other side of it. They come into it with, because I was never a case manager, so I only came into it with one perspective, and they come into it with all of those. And so like I actively like encourage them, go to grad school. When you graduate, like we got you,
Yes.
I love that.
It definitely gives you a well-rounded view of expectations for sure.
100%. So you said November of 2009 is when you started as a BC.
Yes.
So I got to do math. 14. We're approaching 14 years.
Yes.
Okay. 14 whole years. Have you loved it?
Yes, I do. I love it very much.
I hear that. 14 years. So if I can ask, what was your path? How did you get to Epic Consulting?
So I started out in November 2009 working for DDSi. A guy by the name of Dr. Dennis Olvera hired me. Very, very smart man, very well versed, was a great mentor. He passed away. I don't remember for sure the year, but maybe somewhere around 2014 or 2015. So eventually I just decided to leave DDSi. I didn't really have a mentor or anyone to work with. And during the time I worked with DDSi, Dr. Olvera and I had worked out a plan for me to become a BCBA, which is what I am now.
Okay.
And do some ABA programming. And then with his death, of course, that didn't work out. So it was still always kind of a goal of mine. And I was offered a job with Accessibilities. I believe that would have been somewhere around 2018 to come and work with them, do their behavior department, and maybe then also later expand into doing ABA for them as well. So things didn't work out too well with them, though. And I ended up going with Positive Pathways, where I worked from 2019 until I started at Epic last year. And Positive Pathways, absolutely awesome to work for. They do not have non-competes and don't believe in it. So we share that ideology.
I was there for 2 years and I knew them as a case manager before, and for sure, like inside and out, like they're doing it right. So
they are,
yeah.
they are an excellent organization.
Mhm.
So then I'd always had the goal sort of in the back of my head to have my own business. So I was able to complete that last year.
It's very exciting.
Yeah.
Very, very exciting. So 2009, I started to write my chronological notes. Started out at DDSi, went to Accessibilities, Positive Pathways, which I agree with Jennifer and with you, Stephanie Schenk over there, my counterpart over there. I think we have very, very parallel mentalities on the industry. And so we tend to agree on virtually everything, almost everything. It's always been good conversations with her and with Kathy Ackerson.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Always good meetings, conversations with them. Yeah, very similar, viewpoints on the waiver for sure.
Mhm.
So then leaving Positive Pathways to open Epic, I'm assuming that was a smooth transition.
Yes.
Very cool. So how was your time at DDSi? That's where you started out, right?
Yeah, I was a new behavior clinician when I started out there. As I'd mentioned before, Dr. Olvera was always a good mentor. And during the time that I worked for them, he was great to work for. It just became more of a challenge once he had passed away, because that was taking over. I think DDSi was taken over by their financial guy, who is Doug Duggar. And so he was supervising all of the behavior clinicians after that point.
Up until then, he was not because he was not a clinician himself. So he was not supervising clinicians up until that point.
Right. He did the money side of things, and managed from that vantage point.
Okay. So then the industry loses the doctor unexpectedly, unfortunately.
Mhm.
That definitely, even not being on that side of the state, I feel like that impacted the industry, in my opinion.
Yes, I think so too.
Yeah, I definitely think there
Big
was
loss.
ripples. Yes, completely agree. I definitely think there was ripples from that loss. So then when that occurred, what changed for you then? What in the working environment, what then was different?
There just wasn't really that mentor piece of things, or a person that you could go to who had a lot of knowledge. And I to be honest, I'm not somebody who needs a lot of support, but if I feel like I need it, it's always good to know that it's there. So I worked pretty autonomously from that point on. And we would go, I don't know, quarterly to, meetings or whatever. But yeah, I was pretty much independent. We had some, I forget what they called them. I think it was like supervising clinicians, and they were pretty helpful. I had one in particular who was always really helpful for me, but I was just looking for those opportunities that Dr. Alvera and I had been talking about at that point, and just couldn't happen anymore because he was gone. So that's why
You were looking to grow. You were looking to
yeah,
expand your practice and expertise, right? Because you were talking about like ABA,
yes,
becoming a BCBA. You want to pursue those things, okay? And so that was limited now with the unexpected loss of the doctor.
yes.
Okay. So then what happened next?
Well, I had decided that I was going to go to Accessibilities. They had offered me a position that offered growth, and I had accepted it, and was going about, making the transition over to Accessibilities and working with case managers, letting them know that I was leaving. And trying to do that process as professionally as possible. I think what was very hurtful to me was that later on, after I had left and went to Accessibilities, and case managers were talking with families and making that that transition for the folks who decided they had a relationship with me. Obviously, I'd worked there for 9 years, and they were choosing to follow me. What had happened was that when I went to work for Dr. Olvera in November of 2009, I had signed an agreement. Unbeknownst to me, it was kind of like in small letters at the end of the employment contract that said that I could not work with anybody that I had previously worked with for a year or 6 months. I can't remember for sure now, I'm sorry, but somewhere around in there. And I had signed that when I started working for them, and I did not have a copy of that and was unaware of that. So that was kind of my own fault. So I should have kept a copy of that contract, and I should have kept it so that I knew what I needed to do when I left. But I was not aware that I had a non-compete in place when I went to Accessibility. So that put everybody in a bad spot, especially when I started getting like the harassing emails and stuff from DDSi, Doug Duggar, saying that the clients belong to him and that I'm not allowed to work with them. So he went after both myself and Accessibilities, wanting to recoup any money that was made during that time. And, for me, I was making the same amount of money from one organization to the other. So it wasn't like, the only thing I was concerned about at that time was making the transition. And if there were clients that did want to follow me, of course, I wanted to honor their wishes because they do have that right to choose. But I wasn't aware of the contract from 9 years ago that I was still under, apparently.
And you were in BC at that time, right?
I was a BC, yes.
You knew BC, yeah.
Yes, yeah. So that started, DDSi had came after both of us for that, Accessibilities and myself.
let me jump in, Marcy, real quick and pause us there in the story. I want to tell the viewership, all 17 subscribers, that's how you and I came to meet. Is I was aware of this because a BC had left DDSi, came to supported behavior services. And by left, I mean applied, was interviewed, was a qualified candidate. We gave her an offer. She accepted it. She started to come to DDSi, or come from DDSi to supported behavior services. And I received a phone call from Doug. We talked about it in episode 3, where I received a phone call where he tells me about how he sued you in Accessibilities, and Accessibilities had to pay him $75,000, and that's where I'm headed, blah blah blah. And so I did my research, I did my homework, and I found the case online, downloaded all the available public record documents, all the PDFs, and I read it. And so then, did somebody send you the episode, or how did you come across that episode?
Yeah, Positive Pathways. They were letting me know that they had watched it and that I was in the content of that. And so I was interested in that, obviously, since I definitely would like to advocate for non-competes.
Yeah.
I think it's very hurtful, not only to the clinicians who are just trying to do their jobs, but I feel like it's also very hurtful to the folks who receive services who have, per Medicaid guidelines and rules, the right to choose who they want to work with. I don't feel like we should interfere with those relationships, because if we are making progress with the folks we're working with and we're doing a good job, that should not be interrupted just because somebody's afraid that they're going to lose some money. It's because it's not, it's not about that. It's for clinicians, it's about making that progress and improving the quality of life for those that we work with. And so that's just my little plug. And the reason why I'm on here is just, I feel like if you're an agency or an organization, that is something that should be stepped away from.
I mean, I could not agree, not agree more.
Yeah.
I've been very outspoken about those, Jennifer, as well. I mean, we come and talk about that kind of thing all the time. But to me, using this venue as an outlet is what's bringing a lot of us together, because you and I didn't know each other. We hadn't met before. Positive Pathways watches the episode. Thanks for the views. And then sends it to you. So then you watch it because you go, hey, some guy's talking about me. So you watch it and you see what's going on. So then you shoot me an email. We start to talk and collaborate. And now, we work together effectively as collaborators. And then now we're on here talking. And to me, that's why using this mode of communication to put on YouTube and spread the word is imperative, because there's so much going on and people weren't talking before. And yeah, I mean, I can preach about the whole choice thing, because everybody, in my opinion, has been focused on the companies for too many years. And I want to shift the industry from the companies to the practitioners. I do not and wholeheartedly believe the companies don't matter. The companies are just a name, a logo, a shell. They do not matter, because the company is intangible. It doesn't actually do anything. It's the body, it's the clinicians, it's whatever discipline, right? It's the music therapist, whatever it is. And so the state will argue, specifically Jessica Harlan York made the example with me, well, the client does have choice. They choose to go from ABC to XYZ. That's half a choice, in my opinion. They don't have the other half, which is Marcy, the clinician. Because yes, they had the choice to go to Accessibilities, but because of that non-compete, they didn't have the choice to select you and continue continuity of care, the rapport that they've had. And so that, to me, means they don't have actual choice. It's a direct conflict of choice.
Yes.
And
agreed.
It takes away the need for providers to give raises, to fulfill promises on roles and positions, and all those kinds of things. No innovation, no improvement on fringe benefits, because what for? If you leave, the clients belong to me. Same thing I've been preaching about for a while now.
And just to back that up a little bit, right? Like I think we all kind of run into this, right? You can work with somebody for years. You work with a client or family for years, and then they go, and what company do you work for? Because they don't know.
They don't care
what company you work for.
Exactly.
And I've switched a couple times, and some people have followed me, and they will still kind of, and what company are you with again? They don't know.
Exactly.
I'm fairly confident that I serve 2 individuals, still myself personally, and I'm fairly confident neither of them know whom I work for, or even that like it's a company I opened, because it just doesn't matter. It's not a topic of conversation. They're fully capable of understanding all of that, but like they don't care. It's not part of their, programming.
Right.
The companies don't matter. I'm gonna die on that hill. Marcy, so you leave DDSi, you go to accessibilities.
Mhm.
You start to get some emails, you said?
Yes.
Continuous from there, will you? So you started to get some emails, then what's going on?
So basically he, just let me know that there was a contract. I don't know why he didn't make me aware of that prior to leaving. But that there was a contract in place and that he was coming after me. And I had likewise shared my concerns with him that at the time I had a company vehicle and I had to fix it. And, there were things wrong with it. And he was refusing to reimburse me for that as well. Just saying that I owed him, I don't even hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so I just had disengaged pretty much after that. And then we started getting cease and desist letters to accessibilities and myself, where he started the lawsuit. And from there, it was kind of just accessibilities and DDSi attorneys going back and forth. And I was just in the middle and being told I couldn't work with the folks that I had worked with for the last, 9 years.
Let me bounce back real quick. That cease and desist, I read because it's public record, and I had downloaded it from my case and I read it. And in that cease and desist, folks, I'll put the link to my case in the bio. It's public record, right? I looked at it and read it before I ever even made contact with Marcy. Attached to that cease and desist is all the jargon, right? And all the threats from lawyers, which whatever. But then it is a copy of the clause or whatever that you signed. And I read it. And in my opinion, many providers manipulate the language. It's not clear cut what people are signing, saying, hello, this is a non-competition agreement. If you leave, it is all of this. It's not. It's snuck in there and it's mislabeled as non-solicitation. And then it's like one sentence very hidden in there. And that on top of it even existing is a problem to me too, because it's like you're sneaking it in there.
Yes, and I
they
didn't
don't have
even
to say
remember it was there.
Yeah, and they don't have to tell you, by the way, you're signing a non-compete because
Right.
They have no requirement to disclose it because the responsibility is on you to read it. But who the heck is reading a 40-page manual?
Yeah.
I've never read a manual in my life that I've ever signed. Not truly. You know what I mean? Like who's really reading that? And then one of the big things with non-competes in any industry, if I come to you and say, hey, I'm unwilling to sign this non-competition, you need to pull it out. You probably aren't going to get the job, and I need a job.
Right.
I need the money. Like, it's not like I have a million options. I'm a new clinician. I'm just graduating. Well, crap, I need this job. And then you find out promises don't happen. Raises don't happen. Well, if I leave, problems. So Marcy, the cease and desist comes. What happens next?
Well, that's the point that I was told that I couldn't work with all of the folks I'd worked with previously until they had sorted out their legal issues. So we had to hire another behavior clinician at Accessibilities, and she took over those cases.
So this BC takes over your caseload because they chose the company. It's just you that's the problem, according to their, cease and desist. So then at that point, they have no argument.
Right. But he still wants money that he lost on his clients.
But not his clients. He doesn't own disabled people.
Yes, that is correct.
And for waiver, they have that choice.
No, they don't is the problem. That's what we have to tear away at. Okay.
Yes.
Marcy.
That is the problem.
So he wants money. So what happens? Like, what's the what's the course of this whole cease and desist turned lawsuit? Because he filed an actual lawsuit, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So basically accessibility's attorneys and his attorneys were fighting these things out, telling me, what I needed to produce for them when, and I just went on about doing my job during that time. And I think that eventually, there was a point that accessibilities asked me to start paying for their attorneys or part of their attorneys. And just financially, I could not do that. I wasn't making any more money than I'd ever been making. And I just told them that I could not agree to do that. I would not be able to help, especially because their attorneys bill at a really high rate. It wouldn't have been an attorney I would have been able to afford at the time. And I said, I can get my own attorney if that's what you would like. And eventually they sent me an email. I think it was 2 days after Christmas, December 27th. I got an email saying, we are no longer going to employ you. And then the next day, I got another email saying, we would like to hire you back at $24 an hour. And I was like, no, thanks.
A little bit of whiplash.
Yeah, that's the point that I was like, I'm just going to go work at Positive Pathways. I went to see an attorney and they basically instructed me that I needed to just do a bankruptcy to get out from underneath all of this because, at this point it was kind of too late to do some legal maneuvers that they could have done earlier on if I had my own attorneys. So I was just pretty much, that was my only option because I couldn't afford to pay, $15,000 to $20,000 for an attorney, which is what they asked for, for I forget what they call it, but basically a down payment on your legal services, retainer fee. There we go. That was the word I was looking for. So that's what I did. And then I just left it to accessibilities and DDSi to just, figure out how they wanted to settle because they were the ones fighting over the money and the clients. And so, it was just, and the stress level was horrendous. And I just, wanted to get a fresh start, and Positive Pathways was and is a godsend. And I was able to just do my job and work there. So that was pretty awesome.
Real quick, at Positive Pathways, you went over there to be a contractor or were you employed?
I was employed.
Okay. Never mind. I was going to sing praises about the contractor model, but never mind. Let me ask you if you can recall from the day you got the nasty email or emails to the day it was like done, finalized, legally speaking, I guess. How long was this process?
Well, let's see. So accessibilities, I went to work for them in I think it was around February of 2018. And then I think within a month of that's when it all started, like the emails and all that good stuff. And then I really never had it settled until it would have been, I don't know, January or February of 2020, I think.
Oh, but we're talking close to 2 years.
Yes.
Wow.
Close to 2 years back and forth between lawyers. And correct me if I'm wrong, but from my understanding of what I reviewed on those public record files, there was nobody ever won or lost.
So my part was I separated, went and did the bankruptcy. And at that point, my portion of it was done. And
You just had to file bankruptcy in order to get out.
Exactly. And so they were still, I don't know when they settled. I wasn't privy to any of that. So whatever happened was between the two of them.
And of course, I'm not privy either. All I know is what I was able to access on the public record, and then what Doug told me when he cold called me, and he said that it cost accessibility $75,000. I'm assuming that's what he meant by settlement payment, because I don't know that he would know how much they paid in lawyer fees. But he offered that information up. That accessibility's paid DDSi $75,000 in a settlement. And I'm guessing, this makes me feel like something I've talked about in previous episodes, the war of attrition, right? War of attrition is the concept of battling where we cut you off from resources or exhaust your resources. So you think about medieval times, you surround the castle so food and resources can't come in or out. At some point, you don't have to kill everybody. You'll just get worn down because you're out of food, you're out of water, you're out of medicine. People are going to start dying off. You're going to surrender. So war of attrition in modern times is bleed you of money. Make it to the point where maybe, and I'm not speaking for anybody, just speculation. Maybe that $75,000 settlement was just worth it to no more attorney fees that you said were at a super high rate, which I believe, and then no more stress. Get this behind me. It's one thing off my desk. I could see this is approaching 2 years. 75K gets rid of it. Because from what I can tell, and if somebody understands it differently, comment in the channel. But from what I could tell, there was no won loss or nothing. This was settled, and then the settlement was accepted and moved on. No court decided, on right or wrong or win or lose or anything like that. War of attrition. That's a lot of money.
Yeah. It's
a lot of money, and who knows how much was spent on attorneys.
Yeah, I can only imagine that was a lot. It was a lot. And it's just, I mean, for me, I just felt like, it should not have happened, because really what it did for the folks that we actually work with, the folks with disabilities that we're actually here for, is it interrupted their services, their progress, and really their support, because I just couldn't provide it anymore. And that is the part that I hate the most about all of that happened, is how it affected the folks that I work with and for. That to me is the sad part, because nobody's really thinking about that. They're worried about the money. And it's just not about that. I mean, I realize businesses have to make money. I get that. But I don't think it should ever be at the expense for the very people we're here to help.
I mean, that's what largely comes to mind is in the readings of all the public filings and the cease and desist that he sent and all the motions that were filed. When I read through it all, none of it to me was about the clients, about the consumers and what they asked for, what they wanted. Because if they wanted to stay at SBS, at Positive Pathways, at DDSi, at Savita, wherever, if they wanted to, they would. They're customers. They would shop where they wanted. But in those documents, which again are public record, folks, you guys can go onto my case and pull them. I'll link it in the bio. There's actual dollar amounts where Doug was saying, you know what, you cost our company 100,000 this, thousands here. We want that back because those are our clients. And that's where the whole disabled people don't belong to you. You don't own them. They don't have to shop from you. It takes away choice. And I really think that is something the industry has to change. Choice isn't just the company, it's also the individual. Now, I, as a consultant, feel like I have choice too, right? If a client says, I want SBS and I want Joaquin, and I don't have the availability, I can say, hey, thank you, but I'm unable to. But the idea that they can only half pick, which is the company, isn't choice. It is not choice. It is not choice. I'm going to die on that. I'm going to die on a bunch of hills, and that's one of them. That is one of them. 2 years, Marcy, and one bankruptcy later. What's the fallout? How have you been since? You said this ended per se in early 2020. So 2 years now, 3 years, 3 years. I can't count. 3 years now.
Yeah.
How,
it's
how, have the- how have the last, how have the last 3 years been for you since all of this closed up, right? It's never really closed. But
Yeah, well, obviously you're still stuck with a bankruptcy for at least a 5-year period, right? While you're doing what you need to do to make that right. So I still have another year and a half, 2 years of that to complete. And so that obviously affects your credit. I guess I probably need to say that. So but it was worth it to me to just to get it dealt with and over, because I needed to be able to move on with my life, and I needed to be able to get back to doing the job that people count on me to do. So I'm very thankful. I have a very supportive spouse who always has my back. And for that, I am extremely grateful. And that's what got me through. And so, yeah, it's been a challenge, but it's now I'm at a place where, I feel pretty good. So, but it's definitely been a stressful several years getting to this point. And I guess my main concern and the reason why I'm here is because I do want behavioral clinicians to understand that if they're in this field, that when they are going to work for someone, they need to be very cognizant of what they're signing, because I am living proof that it will come back to haunt you if you don't carefully review any contracts. And when you do carefully review them, you also need to make sure you keep a copy for yourself. Big learning lesson for me. Even if it was from 9 years ago, obviously, you still want to make sure that you keep a copy of that, so you can make a very educated decision on what you're doing. So, and then I would also encourage you to steer clear of providers with non-compete clauses, because it does impede choice for the folks that we are there to work for. That's my plug, and that's the hill I'll die on right there.
I love it. I'll be right there next to you.
Yeah. Well, I'll be on that hill.
Party on that hill. So one thing I do as we address, the behavior consultants across Indiana, one thing I do want to emphasize is any type of contract, agreement, however you label it, anything that you sign that follows you. So let's say you sign yourself into a contract that says, when I leave, Epic Consulting, I'm going to wear a blue t-shirt every Tuesday for 2 years, right? Like, you can contract yourself into whatever. So I know it's a silly example, but let's just say I did that because that contract follows me post Epic. It's not confidential. It is not confidential. You can share that with anybody, everyone. So my advice is to get a lawyer to review anything before you sign it. Now, that does cost some money. I understand. We're not all in that position. So the second bit would be send it to veterans. Send it into the Indiana Behavior Association. We will review it and give you non-legal advice, because none of us are lawyers there. Because it's not confidential. You can share it. You can take a picture of it, post it on your Facebook page, and ask your friends, what do you guys think? Get it read by multiple eyes before making decisions, because it's very problematic. And, to me, it's only the beginning of the problem, because we're impacting the individuals that we serve. It's about the money. Now people are taking ownership of disabled people and their customers, right? But then, to me, that is like at the front end of all the problems, because back here is like they're not giving raises. They're not fulfilling promises on potential advancement. They're not innovating. There's no new improved fringe benefits, because what for? I've got you trapped. I have you trapped. And to me, the epitome of growth and innovation is competition. I have to, even be in the highest paying agency in the state, have to continue to innovate, or they will leave. So we keep them from leaving by paying the best, providing the best, listening to their, concerns and making those changes, versus, well, if they leave, it can't hurt us. we'll sue them. That's not the way to do it. And that's all we do every week. We're like looking at like, all right, how do we improve this process? How do we make this better? How do we keep them happy with this? Okay, this one, there's not a lot we can do, right? But this one we can do a bunch. And they don't have to do that. Did you ever experience that at DDSi? Did you ever feel like you got a false promise for advancement or money or anything?
Well, I'd say the closest thing would just be, working towards the advancement with Dr. Olvera, and then he passed away, obviously, and couldn't honor that. Nothing, nothing that could be helped really.
Sure.
So, and you basically, you really had to leverage or submit sort of a business plan if you felt like you needed a raise. Not really. I don't guess business plan would be the right word, but a cost and efficiency type of plan, like to show why you think you need a raise.
Did you have access to your NOAs when you were there?
No.
So you didn't even know how much was coming in.
We would have like spreadsheets that showed the amount of hours we were allowed for each person each month.
Sure, but it was filtered, so you didn't know the amount of hours you're working is bringing in X dollars and you're getting Y dollars.
Right.
So you have no idea. That information is kept from you, and they just tell you what your units are or your hours, tell you how much to work, because I'm sure you had a quota. Do you remember what your quota was?
I feel like it was somewhere around, I had to do, and for me, it was a little different because I've always been someone that travels a lot. So a lot of my time was spent driving, because I covered a vast area. So I think the expectation for me was like somewhere around 25 to 30 hours per week, that I was expected to have, given that at least 20 to 25 of those hours were probably driving. So.
Sure.
Yeah.
Not a terrible, comparatively speaking, not a terrible requirement as far as
No.
25 to 30 billable hours.
No, we were able to work that out. So it was a little bit more reasonable for me given the travel. So my position was a little bit different because I think there's a lot of behavior clinicians that they get lucky and they have that, caseload right around their area. I always thought, man, that would be great, but it just never worked out with me. So I did travel a lot, and I don't mind the travel. It's a great time to do personal enrichment, like listening to Audible and, finding things that
Catching this podcast during your drives and between clients.
Exactly. Podcasts are great while you're driving. So that was always useful time for me, and that's not really changed over the years. So
Fair enough. So not a terrible billing requirement for you specifically.
mm-mm.
You leave, the case was never settled, or the case was never won or lost, it was settled. You didn't have to pay any of that settlement, correct? It was accessibilities.
Right.
Renee and
Mhm.
okay. Does a bankruptcy cost? Like, did you have to spend on that? I don't know how that works.
Oh yeah. I think for bankruptcy, it's somewhere around 1,500 to 2,000 basically up front that you're paying.
Just to file and then all the fallout from having filed for
Right.
bankruptcy.
That follows you for years, right?
Yes, it does.
Which
Mhm.
is still following you, right? You said it's a 5-year clock on it, which we're only at like year 3. So you still have what, 2 years left on this clock of dealing with it. It's like this reoccurring like DDSi trauma of like
Yes.
just
And you
itching
did
away at you.
everything right. Like we talked about, oh, well, if you talk to your case managers and let them handle the transition, that's okay. That's acceptable. But in reality, it's really not. Like they can still come after you and say you took their clients, like, and then do
Yeah,
something.
because I was very I was very, very picky about making sure that I was not a part of that conversation or the choice. I just wanted to let people know that I was leaving, and then when they would ask questions about where are you going or can I follow, I would just direct them to the case manager because I didn't want any misconceptions about me trying to solicit. So I
Mhm.
tried to go about that the right way. I tried to do things the right way. But I did not know about that little piece of the contract, and that's what got me. So
It really did too. And we just, I don't want to say it's unfortunate, right? Because that case almost taking 2 years. Somebody had to file for bankruptcy. Somebody had to pay a settlement. Like, so that case took its toll. But the
mhm.
only thing that I will say that like is a little disappointing is that there wasn't a judge's ruling, because a judge's ruling would then allow for precedent. And I don't know which way it would have gone, in DDSi's favor or otherwise. I have no idea, right? It's already done and sealed. But,
Yeah.
I would have been interested to see what a judge's ruling on that would have been, specifically in our waiver world, because non-competes come up in other industries and everything is a very individualized situation. Like I had acquaintances that went through it, and it was a plumbing company in town, and they went through a similar situation, but it's way different
Mhm.
there than here. And so like, I don't want to compare them, but I would have liked to have a judge's ruling, but we didn't have that. And Marcy, during your drive time, I want to encourage you to catch episode 6 where we talk about solicitation. We did a solicitation episode, and we're going to probably be doing a follow-up to it in season 2, because the struggle that we're having in this industry, in another hill that I'm on top of, is we can solicit. The ethics code and DDAR's manual says we are barred from uninvited solicitation of the individuals we serve, but that's uninvited solicitation. Standard solicitation I can do. I can perform all day long. I can tell people the truth, factual information. So if a client says, Joaquin, you're leaving, where are you going? I can tell you exactly where I'm going and when. That's the truth. We got to stop treating the individuals we work with like this, like hidden, tucked away group of people. That grown up asked me a question. That 12-year-old asked me a question. I can tell the truth,
Mhm.
and we're going to start changing that with examples. I think the state has been lacking in actual examples of
I
what
think
is.
that's a good point. Because I kind of felt that way myself too, exactly what you're saying. If somebody asked me a direct question, I felt like I was being disrespectful when I would say, "Oh, sorry, I can't answer that for you." But on the same token, I also tried to take a minute to say, I would love to tell you, but unfortunately, with the position that I'm in, I just want to make sure I am good on the legal side of things, that I'm doing everything right. And I apologize if I'm a little overly cautious, but I would love it if you could just follow up with your case manager and you guys could go back over all the choices that you have so you can make an educated choice on what you want to do. So I felt comfortable approaching it that way, but I think you're absolutely correct. We do owe them an answer, and we should be able to answer. Absolutely.
And in my opinion, we are able to answer them. In that episode, we dissected the ethics code from the DDARS manual, most of which I agree with, right? It's good ethics stuff. The part where it's like uninvited solicitation has been manipulated in the industry to turn into no solicitation. You can't tell people what you're doing, where you're going. Yes, I can. All of the
Well,
BCs here can tell everybody what they're doing, where they're going, if they so choose to go somewhere.
and we have examples, and probably in some of our podcasts, where people have shared their stories of they didn't tell their clients, and then the agency was able to say what they wanted to say in the end, which when the BC found out what was said was not accurate, right?
Controlling the
So
narrative.
yeah, they're controlling the narrative, and then the client's going, wait, what? I just saw my BC yesterday. You're telling me they're suddenly gone. So,
Mhm.
like that is not fair, factual information for the individual and their families. It's just wrong.
Yeah.
I think that's an old era thing that we are now going to start moving away from. That's the big goal. And the more we talk about it, and the more we, provide examples and do a follow-up episode on that, I think we're going to head in that direction. BCs across the state, sure, review whatever you did sign, because maybe you did sign something in an employment manual that says, I will not tell people the truth or whatever. Because we can technically sign ourselves into things, right? So I do encourage you, read it, know what you're signing. But outside of like that, there is nothing in the DDARS manual that says I cannot tell people what I'm doing, where I'm going, the truth. I can solicit. I'm going to keep barking it. I can solicit. I mean, my YouTube channel is solicitation. The billboards are solicitation. What we can't do is coerce, manipulate, perform uninvited solicitation. And so, no, we're going to keep providing examples of what is uninvited solicitation, what is not. And yeah, you should definitely catch that episode, Marcy, and then tell me what you think about it.
I will do that.
That's huge. That's huge to me. Like, no, I don't want the BCs of SBS to leave, right? Or at least most of them, right? But if one, for whatever their reasoning is, whether they don't like what we're doing, or they're not paid enough, or they're not supported enough, whatever it is, they could leave because they just felt like it on a Tuesday. They could leave because their friend started an agency and they want to go work for their friend. I get that. I would want to too. They can go. They can tell everybody that they're going. We won't. We don't even call the clients or the families because it's not our job. We tell the case manager, we know that so and so's leaving. If you need anything from us, let us know. Usually they just need utilization. Here it is, no problem. We'll give it to you immediately. And then let's say somebody had 10 clients and 8 or 9 chose to follow and 1 didn't. Then the case manager can tell us, hey, do you have somebody else? Okay, sure. Now we will look at, sending people for interviews, but that person's first choice, do you want to go with your BC? That to me is like, should be a given. Your first choice, do you want to go with them? If you do your thing,
And I know one of the attorneys that I talked with was saying that in our field, for what we do, doctors have kind of a similar situation as us. In that, there's non-competes and they have to sign things that are a lot like this. And so I think they battle it as well. So that attorney was familiar with my predicament just based on having been in that same predicament with a physician, and said that it happens a lot. But in our position, I feel like it's a little different because we are actually in their homes. We're in their homes. We're connected to their families sometimes. I mean, there's some people that I've been working with for 14 years now, with those interruptions figured in. But so it's, for them, it's almost like a loss of a close family member, kind of, in a way, when they lose the support that they get from working with a particular behavior clinician. So I was like, while I agree with that comparison, it's not quite the same. Our relationship is consistent, and it's all the time. And when there's a problem, we're who they call. And then all of a sudden, we're just yanking the rug out from underneath them because, well, somebody's afraid they're going to lose some money. And I can't say enough how much I think these non-competes need to go away. It's just, they're just not in our clients' best interest, and they are not in our best interest as clinicians, because you're right, we should be able to work where we feel like we can be the most industrious and we have the most support as clinicians, because let's face it, there's a lot of days that this job is really tough.
Absolutely.
And we need to be where we have that support and where we can do the best job for the folks with disabilities, because that is why any company is here, and that's why we're here. It's not to make a bunch of money. It's because we need to serve the folks with disabilities that we said we were going to. So just going to plug that again.
As many times as you'd like. I mean, we're huge supporters of that. I will touch on the doctor thing real quick. So that recently came up in the news. Just recently, I think I was talking to you, Jennifer, about it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
What we're seeing in communities like Lafayette is a doctor will sign one of those non-competes because they need a job, they need to work somewhere. And
Mm-hmm.
certain communities only have so many like major hospitals or whatever. So here in Lafayette, we have 2. We have St. Elizabeth and we have IU. And so if you sign that non-compete at IU and you're unhappy there, you can't go work at St. Elizabeth. So the doctor leaves Lafayette and moves to Evansville, moves to South Bend, moves to Fort Wayne, or out of state. So we lose the doctor from the community entirely. And so Indiana legislators are currently working at evaluating that and hopefully peeling that back so that we stop losing doctors in our communities. And
Yes.
Some of us are trying to piggyback in to that as well, but
That would be wonderful, because yeah, it's the same thing. So in Tell City, I don't know if anybody is familiar with Tell City, but I can tell you there are not a lot of behavior clinicians there.
sure.
So when my services were interrupted, that left them with exactly nobody.
No one at all.
So same situation there. So I think it makes sense to me to piggyback on that, and for that to be done away with, because it is impacting small communities, specifically small rural communities, and not just, your Lafayette areas, but just across all of the state. It just needs to be banished.
What's that? The phrase "grind my gears." That's another one of those things that grinds my gears, because let's just assume an agency that just lost a BC some way has another BC locked and ready to go with complete availability to take on your entire caseload. I will still hold that takes away choice, but let's just assume they have that BC to take on most of your caseload, but then some of your people aren't within their range. So a company will fight you on a non-compete even if they don't have somebody to serve some of those people.
Right.
Because why? Like, you're hurting disabled people under the guise of like my business, but you're supposed to be a business for disabled people.
Right.
And they're going to lose their clinician altogether. You have nobody to replace them. And
Correct.
if you do, it might be 3, 6, 9 months from now, but that doesn't matter to you. That's not at the forefront. The forefront is winning this, solidifying, your future income. And that to me is like, even if you had somebody to replace them, it should be choice. But then when you don't have somebody to replace them, then for sure shouldn't be a discussion. I don't have anybody to take that on. They should anyway be able to go with that clinician. That's another one.
Yes, I know. That's what I was thinking too. Exactly.
Indiana's mostly rural. I know we have some big cities, Evansville, South Bend, Lafayette, and Indianapolis, but like Indiana's predominantly rural. And so if you have somebody serving these rural areas, that's hard enough to find,
Right.
let alone we're going to pitch a fit. No, you can't serve them. And then half a dozen kids go without services just because. And at that point, nobody's even making money. So what are we doing?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. All right, Marcy. So you guys hear my dog howling?
I did not hear
I
that.
did. My dog has been barking since we started, so.
I always get excited when she does because I hope it's Amazon, but it's not always Amazon. Marcy, what I want to know though, now you've opened Epic. What are your goals? What do you want to do with that? What's that going to look like 3, 5, 8 years from now?
Yeah, that I'm not really sure. Like, I can honestly say that for the last year, I've just been celebrating being independent and like getting to the position that I had set as a goal. So eventually I need to reset and then think, okay, well, what am I doing moving forward? But at this point, I've just got to say I have so much enjoyed just the process of becoming my own business and running my own business and just celebrating that. I don't really know for sure, if I ever wanted to add anyone moving forward. If I find the right person, certainly I would love that. But it definitely takes, as you know, a certain kind of person to be successful in doing this and offering high quality services. So maybe I'm a little bit too picky, but so far it's just been me and I've just been enjoying that. And I think as I get ready to move into the next year, I might do some goal setting and looking at how I want to branch out. But I'm just going to celebrate this year and, enjoy working with the folks that I work with because I do love it. I really wouldn't want to do anything else. So I guess my answer is I'm not really sure, but my goal for this year is just to continue to provide high quality of services, to see my folks be successful in all the goals that they set with me, and just working on that for the foreseeable future.
I think, regardless of what industry you're in, making it 1 year, making it 3 years, making it like every year should be a celebration. For those who aren't in it, like running a business is complex. And
Yes.
I want to say 95% of us have no idea what we're doing. I have no idea what I'm doing running a business. None. Never did. I am a clinician, and I'm sure you have been feeling that same feelings, Marcy, where it's like,
Yes.
I'll figure it out. And that's why, like, we have, company attorneys and company CPAs now. We have all this stuff because, like, I don't know half of it. They email me with words I don't know, and I email them back, make it dumber. Like, I don't know what you're saying to me.
Maybe some smaller words, please.
Yeah, no, for real. And so, like, having a year in, celebrate it. Having 2 years in, every year you have to, every 6 months, whatever, you have to celebrate it because it's hard. This is difficult.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
for most of us, like, imposter syndrome kicks in, I feel like. We're like
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
Yeah.
All the time. Yes.
Yes. 3 year mark. When we hit the 3 year mark, I like do the thing where, like, I sit by myself and I like look around. I'm like, it is real. It's still here. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I know. Same. Yeah.
I don't know how, but like people know it's here, and it's so that's a real thing. So whether it's a year,
It
whether
is.
we're lucky enough to make it to 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, like celebrate it. It's
Mhm.
important. Even if it's just you right now. The first year was just me and you're doing great work just by yourself. It's fine.
Well, and I think for me, it's such a celebration because I know that I don't have to worry about contracts or somebody thinking, they own people. Like, it just feels so good to know that I can just do my job and serve the people that I work for, and that I steer that. It's such an amazing feeling, and I love it. So mostly I've been relishing that.
I think my favorite part was having myself as a boss.
Yeah.
I'm, just however that sounds coming out loud, but like, we all want to do things our way and we all want to like move this direction, improve this, whatever. And like, this is the only time I've ever actually gotten to completely, for the most part, do that, right? There's a little give,
Yes.
but like 98%, like I drive it and I never got to before. And I love it.
And you're
Yes.
probably the toughest boss you've ever had.
I am incredibly strict on me. There's no Netflix and coffee in the middle of the day at all. I am drilled in. Yeah, run a tight ship on myself.
Yeah.
Yes,
You work a
that's
lot.
the joke. That's the joke at my house. My husband will say, "Gosh, your boss is a real jerk. I can't believe he's scheduled you. Like you're scheduled to work this late." And I'm like, "I know. Gosh."
I love it. I do the same thing. I'll
People-
be with
Yeah.
friends and I'll be like, my boss needs to give me a day off,
And then your friends are like, "Oh, you're the boss. You can just take a whole week off." And
Yeah, and it just doesn't work that way.
right.
No, yeah. I had friends, especially in the first couple of years, like, you're in charge, just like do this, do that. And I'm like, what I learned, because I was naive, was I thought like, all right, one day I'll have consultants and people will do stuff and I'll go take it easy. And I work more now than I ever have. It's just doing different stuff. And so when
Yeah.
my friends are like, yeah, we want to go hang out on Friday, just take the day off, you're the boss. I'm like, the boss means I have the most amount of responsibility and work. No, but like, maybe I'll meet you guys after 1, but like, no, I got to do stuff, it's not as, it's liberating in the way that I wanted, like the stress and the contracts that you're talking about, Marcy. It's
Yes.
liberating in the way that I control the ethics and the morality here and all that kind of stuff. So like,
Exactly.
wouldn't change it, but it does come with a lot more work.
It does. It does, but I'm totally good with that.
Oh, I am as well. Now, have you made a website or anything for Epic at all?
Yes, actually, well, I've started one. It's very primal. I'll say that. Like, it's not super, but we have one started, and mostly because my daughter's boyfriend is doing that in college. And so he set up the website for me. It's just very basic, but
Hey,
I
it
can
works.
honestly say there's a website.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to get that link from you. So one of the things in the bio that I'll put is going to be a link to my case, public records, if anybody's interested in, reading more like I was, of course, because I'm nosy. And I'll put a link to your website as well. So that way people can, see what you're doing, the great work, how you've taken what was a very terrible and 2-year-long treacherous scenario and how you're coming out of it. Right. And in that you should be proud of too. You have bounced back. You've made your own agency with the right mindset of we're not going to do those bad things that have happened to yourself. Right. It didn't turn you bitter per se.
No, it
It
would take a
makes
lot
you
more than
happy
that.
to feel.
It would take a whole lot more than that. I just I think that just counting your blessings every day, there's something to be said for that. So that's always been my focus. Not like what's going wrong, but specifically on where I want to go and all of the things that I'm blessed with every day. And that's a lot. So that's kind of how I see the world. So I appreciate that. Thank you for that little plug too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's great to see. I've always preached about in college, you guys are familiar with like the Greek life, right? Fraternities, sororities, all
Yes.
that. I never did any of that. I could not get over the concept of hazing, not for the sake of like, I'm really good at like messing with my friends, they mess with me, but for the sake of, I had it like this. Now I'm over here. I'm going to do that to you. That concept of like, since you're new and I had to go through a storm, I'm going to put you through a storm. I've never been able to align with that. So like I have dealt with cease and desist and back and forth fight with Bridges, with lawyers and you with DDSi. And instead of turning that into, well, I dealt with that storm, I'm going to put more BCs through that storm. I decided, let's try to give everybody an umbrella and, a way to look at the weather to get an advance warning on the storm that we're not sending their way. And so to me, that's why, Greek life never worked for me, because I'm not going to haze people. I'm going to try to make it better as best as I can in my wake. And then, what they do with it after that is their responsibility. I've done what I could. And I see that from you. I see that from you. Instead of, I'm going to turn around and be mad and be mean. You're like, I'm going to, open a bright future and do some epic things. You like what I
Yes.
did there? You like what I did there? Like what I
That
did
was
there?
great. I like it.
Epic Consulting, folks. We will put the link in the bio so that you can go and check out Marcy's website. I haven't checked it out, so I'm going to also do that. I'm going to nose around because if you ever go to my website, it's atrocious because I made it. I didn't have a daughter's boyfriend to do it, so it's rough, but it
Well,
works,
at least it's up. If it's up there, that's a heck of a start.
It is, and it was up in later time than yours. Like it took longer because I am against it and I was refusing. Because it's just one more thing to deal with, and I don't care about a website. But then enough people were like, we didn't know you were real because we couldn't find you anywhere. And then like SBS. So that's what made me cave. That's what ultimately Gina from our Muncie team came to me and she was like, I thought this was like a weird scam or like you weren't real. And that's where that's where
You're
I
not
caved.
real unless you got a website.
So I made one, but that's where I hold firm. We won't have a Facebook or any of that other jazz because I don't want to manage it. There's too many things on the ticket. You'll see more.
It's a lot. Yes. I'm in the same space you are right now with that. Because I was asked, do you want to do an Instagram page? And I was like, I'm just not there yet. Maybe later.
I don't even have one personally. So no. Let alone professionally. I could not. No. Marcy, as we start rounding out, I'd like to ask you if you have any closing thoughts or anything that you want to make sure you get out there in this episode.
I think just again, plugging for those new clinicians that are in the field. When you go to find a job, make sure that you are looking for one where there is not a non-compete, where you don't have to sign a contract interrupting the services that you will be providing to folks with disabilities. And the reason why is both to protect yourself and to protect those folks who count on you for advocacy, for looking out for their best interests and for helping them along and supporting them. So make sure when you go and look for a job that you ask, do you have a non-compete? And if they do, have someone read it, consider whether or not you can honor that, keep a copy of it. If you do have the ability to go see a lawyer, to have them look at it, that is awesome. Or if not, go find employment with someone that does not have a non-compete, because you will be better off for it, and anyone that you work with will be better off for it. And just let my case be a lesson that you don't want to engage in those non-compete covenants, because they do make things very difficult should you decide that you're going to leave or go somewhere else or to another community even. So that's my plug. That's my main thoughts. And I'm happy to answer any questions anyone might have, not legal questions, but just questions about being a clinician. So yeah, that's about it.
I appreciate that, Marcy, very much. Jennifer, do you have any closing remarks that you'd like to send our viewers?
For sure. I am so appreciative that you're sharing your story, because I feel like your story is so important to this fight that we're having now, where we're just as of this year, really starting to call these companies out and try to educate new behavior consultants, even some that have been in the field and maybe have never signed one before. Or like in your case, maybe it wasn't that it said non-compete. And so you wouldn't even know that. So you have to be so careful with what you sign. And there is real harm to these things. So when you come to that place where you do have a life change and you may go somewhere else, it can hurt you. It can hurt your families you work with, the individuals you work with. I mean, the trickle down, lasting you for years. I mean, it's just an example of how harmful this can really be. And there are some pervasive views out there. Well, in Indiana, it's never going to fly if, I sign a non-compete and, it's not going to happen. Nothing will happen to me, but there are some things that could happen to you signing a non-compete.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And I'd like to mimic that as well, Marcy. I'm very grateful that you reached out and that you're willing to come on here and share your story. I think it's important for the industry to hear your side, to hear, as the clinician, what happened to you, because that could happen to other clinicians. Jennifer's right. There is this, mindset that non-competes in Indiana don't hold water. And in some cases, in some instances, maybe they don't, but they can, and it just depends. And we don't want to find out the hard way, right? We want less and less people to find out the hard way. So
yes,
very grateful for you coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Those BCs. Absolutely. And I want to encourage those BCs, like you said, Marcy, if you're reading through employment agreements and you see that, there are plenty of agencies out there that don't have them.
Right.
Epic Consulting is hiring. They love to bring on BCs, right, Marcy, who are looking for a non-compete environment. So, I'll link Epic Consulting in the bio. Please click, give Marcy a holler, ask her some questions, and we'll start getting you a team. But in the meantime, Marcy, I would love to encourage and plug the Indiana Behavior Association and see if we can get Epic Consulting as an agency member. And you can come be a part of the CEUs and the quarterly meetings, and just be another strong ally that we're trying to collect here. So I would love it.
Yeah, appreciate that.
I'll email you the membership application and bully you into applying and coming to join. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Since it's just you, it's $75 a year. So, that's my plug. All right. I thank you again, Marcy. Jennifer, thanks for co-hosting with me as always. And I want to thank our 17 subscribers who come back every week to watch. We are going to be taking a break in between season 1 and season 2, but we will be back. In the meantime, in the links the bios in every episode has links. Feel free to click on Epic Consulting, reach out to Marcy, ask her some questions, get a job, whatever you would like. Reach out to Indiana Behavior Association if you ever have any restrictive covenants you would like to like for us to review without a legal opinion, with just our own perspectives as non-lawyers. But until next time, thank you all for coming, and I will close us out.